Hey guys, and welcome to the video. Now, as I'm sure many of you are aware, the new 1.4 update added a graveyard mini-biome that spawns certain enemies at all times of the day, even if they normally wouldn't. So, I figured, what the heck, let's build a farm out of it. Now to start this video off, I'm going to go through all of the different items that this farm will get you, and then, at the end, I will show you how to build it. So, let's get into it. So starting off with the items that this farm produces, I left the farm on overnight, and then I tallied up all the items I got, and by dividing these items by the time I left the farm on, I can approximately see how many items per hour this farm will produce. So starting off with torches, I got about 251 torches per hour. I got about 163 arrows per hour. I got about 65 gel per hour. About 30 lenses per hour, and then I got about 4.8 shackles per hour, and somewhere around 1.1 zombie arms per hour. And although it's not very significant, you get about 6 gold per hour from this farm, but it's definitely not a money farm. I also got this random assortment of items here. Now the one item that I actually want to talk about out of this is the Bloody Tear. Now, the groom and the bride are normally Blood Moon exclusive enemies, but they can also spawn at any time in the graveyard. Now, originally, I was thinking because of these spawns, I would be able to get Bloody Tears at times other than a Blood Moon using this farm, which would have been nice. But I've recently learned that the groom and the bride only drop the Bloody Tears when it's a Blood Moon, so that idea is kind of scrapped. However, as you can see, I clearly did still get a couple, so that means at one point or another when I was AFK in the farm, a Blood Moon triggered on its own, which means that this farm technically doubles as a little bit of a Blood Moon farm as well. Alright guys, well now that we're done with the drops from the farm, let's get into the build. So the first thing that you're going to want to do when building this farm is clear out a large area on the surface of your world. Once you have a large area flattened out and cleared on the surface, the next thing that you're going to want to do is mark a 2-block area for the center of your farm here. Now, you could use something normal like stone. I'm going to use these green blocks here just because they stand out. And then from here, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to build in each direction 62 blocks. So, the way that I like to do this, you could use a ruler, but I'm just going to make sure that I have no dirt in my inventory, and then as I block swap here, I'm just going to keep block swapping until I get up to 62 dirt in my inventory. Alright, so there we go. We've got 62 blocks going in this direction, and now we want to do the same thing in the other direction. Alright, so there we are. We got 62 blocks in each direction. I know this because 62 times 2 is 124, and we have 124 dirt in our inventory. So I can get rid of that now. And now the next thing that I want to do is mark out another 22 blocks from this in each direction, and that's actually going to be where the enemies are going to be spawning. Now you don't have to do this, but I'm going to use these green gem spark blocks just to visualize. Alright, so that side's done. Now I'm going to go do the other side. And there we are. We see we got 44 dirt in our inventory, so we're good to go. And now, anything past those 22 blocks is outside of the range of spawning, so we don't care about that stuff. And anything on the inside of this green block is also too close to you to spawn. So the only places that we want enemies spawning are these small green pads on each side of the farm. So, now that we have this spawning platform made, the next thing we need to do is double check that there's no air pockets below us so that enemies don't spawn and get stuck down there. So the way I'm going to find it is using the zenith here, where I can just do this, but pretty much any weapon that emits light or any light pet will help you in this process. Otherwise, you can just manually go down there and dig through all of the areas. So, enemies can spawn about 46 blocks above and below you, which means that I like to go down about 50 blocks, and how I like to do this is I'll go over to the very edge, the farthest edge that they can spawn, and I'm just going to dig down. Alright, so there we are. That's 50 blocks. And what I like to do is I like to just fill in this with a stone or whatever block you want to use here. And you don't have to do this. I just like doing this to visualize. Now we can see this is the leftmost edge of our farm. Now, anything on the inside of this here has to be fully filled in with blocks. And I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to make the lower edge. Now I'm just going to dig a tunnel to the other side. Alright, so now I have the whole perimeter built down here. And the next thing I need to do is just go in there and fill in all of these air pockets. So the way I'm going to do this is using the new dirt bombs that were added. But you can do this with any old block, whatever you have available. All we need is no air blocks down here. Alright guys, so once you have the bottom filled in, just double check above you that there's no sky islands. This is very unlikely, but on the off chance that there's something above you, you want to get rid of it as well. And once you have this big clear area here, we can get into building the actual farm. Alright, so starting out the build, we're going to find our center again. And the first thing we're going to do is build up 3 blocks. Then we're going to place a platform here that's 6 wide, like so. Then we're going to build up another 3 blocks from this. And then on top of that is going to be the bottom of our kill chamber. So we can remove these placeholder blocks now. Now this kill chamber is going to be 12 blocks wide, centered on these 2 blocks. Like so. And then we're going to go up 9 blocks. Alright, there we are. We have our kill chamber. Now we're going to go out 1 block from each of these, and then from there, we're going to start sloping it down. All the way to the ground on each side. Once you have that done, make sure to hammer all of these rough edges so it's nice and smooth for the enemies to walk up. Alright, so the next thing you're going to want to do is fill in these areas here so that it's flush with the bottom of our kill chamber, which the guide has very kindly jumped into. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add an extra layer moving down here to make it a little thicker on each side. Alright, so we can also add a little bit of a door here so that we can get in easier. You could also create a teleporter, but if you didn't want to use teleporters, you could just do this. So I'm going to place a switch here. Take our design here, build it out like that, connect it to the switch, and now we can get in and out nice and easily. Alright, so now that we have our foundation, let's get to work on the traps for the killing chamber. So we're going to build 2 blocks on each side, and then we're going to fill the rest of that in with spiky ball traps here. Now we can remove these filler blocks. And up from here, we're going to add 4 layers of spear traps. Now, if you didn't want to use this many spear traps, you could add less layers. It's just the more you add, the faster it will kill the enemies. Next, we're going to place actuators on all of these blocks. And before we actuate them, if you'd like, you can add a little bit of a triangle up here on top. And this triangle will basically just help the demonize as they're flying to you. They will hit the triangle and move into the traps instead of hanging around up here. Now, you don't have to do this. It'll just speed up the killing of the demonize a little bit, so I like to do it. So I'm going to build the 4 blocks here, and then I'm going to head up a few blocks like so. And then you can fill in the top. And finally, hammer the edges so it's smooth. Alright, now that we have that built, let's take our actuation rod. You could also just use wiring if you didn't have one of these in order to actuate all of our traps here. Alright, once that's done, we can use our design again to get rid of all the actuators. We don't need them there anymore. Okay, next we're going to head back down into the farm. And we're going to place 4 1-second timers here, like so. And we're going to start wiring them up to the traps. So starting with a red wire, we're going to go up, over, up again, to the spiky balls, and connect it to that first layer of spear traps. Now we're going to take a blue wire, we're going to do the same thing. Up, and this time we're going to go to that. Now we're going to take our green wire. We're going to go on this side, up, and over like that. Oh, shut up, guide. And finally our yellow wire. Oh, I missed. Oh no. There we are. Alright, there's our wiring. Now at this point, the farm could technically run, but there are quite a few upgrades that you can do if you have the resources to do so. So I will now show you those. So the first thing, and this is probably the most important one, is you want to place some spear traps here in order to help kill the ghosts. Now these spear traps are not necessary because you can just use a summon weapon to kill the ghosts as they come after you, but by adding traps here, you are ensuring that you're definitely not going to die to ghosts. And if you'd like, you can even add a second layer of spear traps if you really have a lot of them to spare, like so. And finally, if you really just have so many traps you don't know what to do with them, you can also add a layer of flame traps here in order to protect yourself from the ghosts even more. Now we're going to actuate these. So let's place some actuators on all of our traps here. Same technique as before, you could use the actuator rod, or if you wanted to, you could use some wiring. And now we're going to connect all of these new traps that we added with some wiring. So we're going to connect the flame traps here with the red and the green. Then we're going to take this across the first layer of the spear traps. And now finally, take the second layer of spear traps, connect it with a different color of wire. There is some slight overlap here, so if you were really picky about the wiring, you could wrap it around like so. And then we won't get any weird double triggering. But if you wanted to save on some wire, you could cross across one of the traps. And now finally, if you really wanted to just spice up the kill chamber, we could add some flame traps here. And as you probably saw in the beginning, I also had dart traps there, but those are honestly not necessary. This kill chamber already kills the enemies way faster than it needs to. And one final thing about the kill chamber I want to mention is you could use lava here if you were too poor to use traps, or if you didn't want to hoik into the temple, that sort of thing. But I don't like using lava in this particular farm because a lot of the drops are white rarity items which will get burned by lava. So that's why I prefer the temple trap method of killing. Alright, so now our next level of upgrading the farm is adding some conveyor belts. So down here, oh look, a blood moon. Down here we can add conveyor belts in order to bring some of the money that's dropped by the ghosts as they are killed to us as we're AFK, so we don't lose out on that money. And then if we head up here, sometimes when the demon eyes hit this, they'll die right up here and their lenses will drop onto the sides here. So I like to add some conveyor belts here in order to get us the lenses. And then if you really wanted to, you could also extend this conveyor belt all the way down and along your whole platform. And what this could do is this could bring any fallen stars that might fall as you're AFKing to you during your farming session, so that you could also be farming fallen stars as well as the graveyard biome. But I'm not going to do this, it's just something to keep in mind. Now, the final thing that we need to do is make this farm a graveyard. So we're going to take some of these graves here, and we're going to place 3 of them in the center like so. And then we're going to place 2 going out like this. And there we are. A graveyard farm. If you'd like to make it even spookier, you could add even a couple more graves to make it even darker. Once you have 8 graves, you're at the maximum. So anything after that and it won't affect your farm. Alright, so now going into how to use your graveyard farm. The first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to spawn some summons in here. And that's just to further ensure that the ghosts will not kill you. The next thing that I would recommend is having some form of knockback resistance, so that if a ghost does end up getting to you and hitting you once, it won't hit you into the traps and kill you. You'll just sit here as the summons kill it. And now the other thing to mention is how to turn the farm on. So how you're going to want to do that is you're going to want to, one by one, turn on these timers. Goodbye, Mr. Guide. Green cap, very cool. And that's about all there is to it. Now you can AFK right here and get all the drops. Now one thing that I do want to mention, if you want to get the drops from the killing chamber, you're going to want to stand here. However, this makes you a little bit more likely to get hit by ghosts, so I like to stand down here. And the way that I still get the drops while standing down here is if you have the treasure magnet equipped from Shadow Chest, so I'd recommend getting that for the farm. And then also a pig necklace can help with the second summon, but you don't necessarily need that. Let's turn off these traps because they're loud. And the final thing I do want to mention is that you want to use some sort of summon that won't fly through blocks. So that's why I'm using the Raven Staff here. You could also use a Slime Staff. Just don't use summons that will fly out here and start killing enemies out this way, because you don't want the drops to land here, because then they won't get to you. Alright guys, well there you have it, a fully AFK graveyard farm. Now if you guys enjoyed this AFK farm video, let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll make some more videos on other 1.4 related farms. But that's about all I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing to stay up to date with other farms and videos like this in the future. And other than that, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.